So, what is the Supernote Digest? Well, I get asked that question a lot, and it's a feature that I really haven't used as much. And I think it's really important that maybe we take the time to discuss it. Part of the new update that Supernote just did really deals with the digest, and it goes across platforms. So, not only now can you back it up, put it on multiple devices, you can also see it in the partner apps, whether that's on the desktop for now PC and Mac or Android and soon to be iOS apps. So, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the digest. See you in just a second. Here we are with the Supernote, and what we're going to do, this is the A6X2, and it'll be just a little bit easier. This is a little snappier of a device. And of course, the A5X has the same updates. But what I want to show you and why I think this is one of the features I underutilize, and I can't really explain why I don't use it, other than I really fell in love with the PDF comments. And what we're going to do is I'm going to look at some EPUBs here and kind of show you how that digest feature works, and then switch over to a PDF as well to show you the experience there. I've done a longer video on that, and I'll put that link above for you to be able to see. But I really want to talk about why the digest itself can be a really important tool. And we'll go into A Christmas Carol, one of my favorite books, by the way. And if you've not heard the Tim Curry reading of it, uh, buy it. My wife bought it for me, and it was fabulous. Not only do I love Tim Curry as an actor, but as a voice actor in that particular story, he's phenomenal. Anyway, tangent. You've got the nice cover art. This came from Project Gutenberg, which again, I've sang the praises of Project Gutenberg a lot because I really believe it's a wonderful thing. If you're into classics, you can't find a better public domain source. I'll put that in the video description below as well. Now let's go ahead and we'll talk about the digest. What you can do for this on the digest is in an EPUB, you still have to kind of do it the old school way. And so we will definitely look at a PDF. But in this particular thing, and this is why PDFs are, this is why this type of material sometimes is a little harder to do. So let's go ahead and we'll rotate the A6X2 so it's a little bit easier for me to deal with. And what we'll do is we'll draw brackets. So you draw this little bracket here, and we'll draw a bracket here. And you'll see now that that text has been underlined. And when you go ahead and press on that, you get the annotation screen. The annotation screen is really basic. It gives you the highlighted text. Since we're in landscape mode, you're going to see that you get a slider. If you're in portrait, it's just one page underneath the text. You can delete from here, you can undo and redo, you can erase, and that can be either a region eraser or a more stroke eraser. And then you can also pick your pen style. I personally like the 0.3. It works really well for me, and I stay in that. But right here, we're going to say, so this is the very beginning of the book. We're going to go ahead and say, uh, Dickens is setting the stage for the transformation of Scrooge. That's what an annotation does. The annotation allows you to write, just to hand write, free flow with the highlights. You can also write on the actual EPUB. Now, what's going to happen is you can't do what you do with the PDFs. There's no way to export the EPUB with that writing. That's just something that isn't available. And I think that's really important. You can do keywords here. You can see your annotations. So when we go to the annotation we just did, It's going to show right here, and it's going to take us to that page. Let's go ahead and do another one just to show you what that looks like. So what we're going to do here is we'll highlight this piece, and we'll say that intellectually Scrooge knew Marley was dead, but this is foreshadowing things to come. Now I just go ahead and exit out. And now we have two annotations here. There's not a highlighter tool in an EPUB. You can highlight. Highlighting works by just drawing your bracket. They're talking about Hamlet. Now, if you don't go in and do an annotation there, that will show as a highlight. And I think that's really important because this is a different functionality than the way it works in a PDF. I hope Supernote and Rada end up making that user interface and tool set seamless across. I do understand that they may not be able to do the embedded comment feature, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But the rest of the feature set should exist both in EPUB and PDF. But for now, let's go ahead and look at a PDF. So here we are with the PDF, and what I did was I zoomed this in so that we could read it a little bit easier in this landscape mode, and I really wanted you to be able to see the tool set over here on the left. And one thing you're going to notice is this icon here. This icon doesn't exist in the EPUB. In the EPUB, you have to do the brackets. Now you can do brackets here, but what you can't do is go ahead and use this tool. And I'm hoping that they institute that across, as I mentioned before. And the nice part about this tool is now, instead of having to draw those brackets and being real precise and hoping that you don't mess it up, you can go ahead and drag and select the text that way. And from here, you get a nice pop-up menu. You can highlight, you can underline, you can add that annotation just like you did before, or you can add an embedded PDF comment. I'm not going to cover the comment function here because we've done that in another video. And again, I'll link that down in the description and maybe even a pop-up right here. What you can do is you can choose whether you want it highlighted or underlined, and whether you want it to be a digest. So let's go ahead and do an annotation. And that annotation, now you'll see it automatically put our brackets in. And what I did here is I took just an old paper I wrote as part of my doctoral program and used that for our example. And so right now you've got that annotation. Let's say that in the next paragraph, we want to just do a highlight. Again, we'll drag it and we'll just highlight. And maybe under integrity, character, virtue, dialogue, and andragogy. And if you're not familiar with andragogy, it's teaching adult learners through dialogue. Fun tip. But we're going to take this first paragraph and we're going to underline it. Now, again, anything that's underlined or highlighted, you can do something with. I can go here. If it's highlighted, you'll notice that I can change it to an underline or I can add a comment. I can't add an annotation to that. If I press this one, again, I underlined it and it gives me the comment or the highlight. You cannot do an annotation unless you start with an annotation. So it's really important to remember that if you're going to use annotations and you're going to work in that workflow, what you want to do is make sure you're very purposeful from the start. You can't go back and unring that bell. You have to really be intentional. And I think, and this is one reason I may not use this as much, I tend to take this from the handwritten realm into the digital. And if you do add that comment, you're still writing, it's just converting it to text and embedding it into the PDF. However, you can't do that in EPUBs or other formats. So I think it's really important to consider what your medium is. I haven't been able to read as much on here with the EPUBs as I would like. I tend to read in the Kindle app, which again makes you convert to text for their comments. And that's just the workflow I'm used to. But for people who really want to do a deep dive and put those annotations in, it's very important to be able to have that function. Let's do one more annotation just for the fun of it. We'll do another annotation and then we'll press on it. And another cool thing here is, you can draw little diagrams if you want to, and, little boxes that look horrible. But if you draw, you can draw things up. Maybe you're reading something that's a little bit more technical and you want to draw a quick diagram. Maybe you're reading H.G. Wells, and for the fun of it, you want to sketch out the Nautilus, or you want to sketch out the time machine from his description. You can always do that in here. The nice thing about the annotations is they're free flowing. And this is where it gets fun. And I'm going to kind of reorient this real quick, and then we'll look at it back in portrait mode. Now we're back in portrait mode. And what's really cool about this is at this point, we can actually look at our digest. And so we'll pull down here and we will hit digest. When the digest pops up, what you're going to see is on this particular device, I don't have very many annotations or highlights because I tend to do those on my A5X. However, I do have what we just did, and I can go to Dickens and you'll see all of not just my annotations, which you can click on, and there it is, but also the highlights are there. And again, that's an annotation without adding any text. But at this point, so maybe I highlighted passages and I thought about it and I really need to say something there. It's really important. It's a fact or a piece of information that I didn't think of at the time, but hit me as I progressed throughout the book. You can always go back and edit those and then just get rid of them if you want to. You can toggle this to say that you only want to show the comments. So you can strip out any of just highlights. You only want to show the things that have annotations on them. Again, that's a personal preference. And now I can go into this one, and here are the two annotations we had there as well. What's interesting here is that what you're not seeing is anything that we highlighted or anything that was a comment. So if you add in a PDF comment, that is not going to show. If you add in using the highlighter function, that is not going to show here. And if you add in anything with an underline, that is not going to show here. However, what will show are anything that you marked as an annotation, which also does the underlining and the bracketing. So it gets a little confusing, and I want to make sure that I'm clear about that so that you go into this with eyes wide open on how it works. Now, once you've got your digest here, you can export. So if you hold down, let's go ahead and export both. And you can hit the export button. And when you do, what you get is a PDF of your annotations. And you'll see it gives you the highlighted text, it gives you the annotation, and then it goes on to the next one. Let's go into our EPUB of A Christmas Carol. And let's go ahead and this time we will select all. We will export. And now you jump to that, and here is your Christmas Carol annotation. And you'll see that one's really long because I accidentally scribbled. But you'll see these are a little bit tighter. And what you've got is the handwriting here, and you've got the one without an annotation. Now here you could scribble on the PDF just like you can any other time. This is a PDF now, not an EPUB anymore. And I think that's kind of an interesting point to be made too. There's a new functionality that came in with the beta. And if you go to your settings and then you go into system, backup and restore, and then you will see backup. And under backup, you can say backup digest. And when you do that, you'll say OK. You'll see this file right here. It says Supernote, it gives the date, and then it says backup or SN back. That allows you to be able to then go to your settings again, and you go to System, Backup and Restore. And when you go to Restore, you can go in to the export folder and you can pick the backup. Now see, I have two files here. And the reason that I have two files is because I did one earlier on my A5X to test it. So what you could do is do the backup on one device and then restore it from another. I hit restore. It says restore successful. Now when I go into my digest, you'll see that there are a lot more things here. Because what I did was I restored the backup from my A5X on this device. Now when I go into this, you're going to see a lot more things. And that is because I took more notes on that device. It's definitely a good way for you to be able to see how this presents and how it looks. What you're not going to see here is what was backed up in the other file. So again, I can always go back, and I think that's something they'll probably have to work out with Supernote at some point. But I can always go back now and I can say, okay, I want to go to System, I want to go to Restore, I want to restore it, and then I'm going to this time pick the backup that we did this evening. And I'm going to say okay. And I'm going to say restore now. And I'm going to hit that. Now when I go back, I have that same digest on this device. It's a really good way to think about how you're processing your notes. And in most cases, you're not going to have two devices. You'll probably have one. But if you do, then you at least know how you can sync those files. The digest before now lived only on the device. And I think that it still kind of does, in that wherever you actually enter the information, the original source file is always going to live on that device. But what this does is it allows you to back it up, transfer it over to a device, and at least keep what you wrote in the digest. This is a new feature. This wasn't even in the beta, so we couldn't really even test it to give them any feedback. And I'll make sure that I give them feedback and ask questions and then bring those questions and answers back to all of you. But I did want to take the time to really go through this and take a look at it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to switch over and I am going to show you the partner app and how that looks and how that's changed. And this is the Windows Desktop Partner app. Here we are, and I think it's really important when we're talking about all of this to preface it by saying I'm not 100% sure what the Mac app looks like. Hopefully Brandon Boswell will show us what that looks like in his world. When you go to that export folder, you're going to see that backup file now. One nice thing about this, though, is when you go into the actual documents, PDFs, we'll go to the portfolio and we'll go to authenticity. So now you see this in real time here, and you'll see the highlights come over in yellow. There's a red underline, and if you come over here, you can see if we had any headings in here, if we had any keywords, or if you had the annotations. Now it hasn't synced completely with this new annotation. Hey everyone, welcome back. I want to take a minute and just tell you what happened. I had to cut the video short because the Supernote Partner app and the Supernote Cloud seem to be having some serious problems right now. I'll be reporting this through the feedback tool to let them know. Again, this was something that wasn't tested in beta. It wasn't something any of us saw or were told about. So I think they're having a real problem. And it may even be an issue beyond that because right now, I'm getting a bunch of duplicated folders and files. The good news is I'm not losing anything. The bad news is it seems to be duplicating everything. So if I've renamed a file in the desktop app, it has gone ahead and renamed that and pushed it out to the cloud, but then also kept everything that was already on the cloud and then pushed that back to the device. I just wanted to be transparent. You know, I don't hide anything from you on this channel. I'm a big fan of Supernote. I know they're working on it as hard as they can, but this is keeping me from finishing this review of the digest. At least I was able to show you quite a few things. I was able to show you kind of how the tools work as far as the brackets on EPUBs versus the highlight, annotation, and comment tool on the PDFs. And then those come through and you can theoretically see the digest in the Supernote Partner app. We weren't able to see that part this time, and I left that in there for a reason so that you could see where it was supposed to be. The problem was the files just aren't syncing correctly. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions, any ideas, if you've encountered this and I did something wrong. Again, I'm not a power user on the digest, and I would really appreciate any guidance or feedback you have. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Looking forward to hearing more from you about all of the different things that are going on. Looking forward to hitting that 1,000 subscriber mark that we're well on our way to. And as I always say, we live in a changing world. All you need to be an agent of change is to bring you and your perspective to the table. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.